Tonight on Podcast Them Down, shadows follow us into the room of mirrors, and we decide if 72 seasons is too far gone. See what I did there?
Podcast Them Down.
Hail Metal Nation, it is we, Tim, Matt, and Doug, and you are listening to Podcast Them Down, the metal podcast with... What the hell are you doing, Matt?
I'm dancing to the music.
The metal podcast with the distracting co-host who never fails to derail my flawless intros. So,
Matt, what was that thing that, I don't know if the kids still do it, the Edward Scissorhands with the beer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all right.
Next Sprite.
Wasn't that Edward 40 Hands?
Yeah, that's
it. Yeah, you
it.
duct tape. This is how out of touch we are. I don't know if anyone still does this. No, you know, Edward Scissorhands is like a 30-year-old movie now. And yeah, you duct tape two 40s to your hands so you couldn't do anything until you drank them both.
I mean, I think that's coming. I was also laughing because I opened up my Perrier water.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. And I was debating...
You've really hurting our credibility at the top of the show already.
Well, it's a Metallica review.
You're narrowcasting to Metallica.
You're the Metallica sponsored product.
Oh yeah, well both of you have like high end waters. You know, I'm sure James will be into that.
But what?
We're really street, Tim. Fuck you.
You know, I lost my phone in the Copenhagen airport, and that's okay. Never mind. So I was debating when you started the episode doing a classic spit take, but I realized that would do nothing but ruin my life.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll do an episode outside, and I'll do a classic spit take.
Well, we do have to do a certain episode involving certain foods.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if Doug will be in the same time zone as us one day.
We'll figure that out.
Okay, so Metallica, new album, 72 seasons. We are going to apply our metal review codex to this. But right up front, I need to address some criticisms, some baseless, unfounded criticisms to our method from someone responding to the Camelot review.
Oh.
Okay. So I don't know, Doug, if you wanna go in on this or just have me do a diatribe.
Most of it, we're going to agree to agree. Yeah, I think we actually ended up with the same place. As far as the comments on our methodology, there was some concern about our technique of splitting the album in three. We do this, maybe the dramatic arc is shoehorned. Maybe there's an argument we could do side one, side two, but the objective here, and I'll leave it to the listener as to whether we succeeded on the Camelot review or any others, is to make us talk about every song. This is one thing I can't stand, is reviews that are like, this album is awesome. Here are the 4 songs I like. Here are the 3 songs that are meh. This album is terrible. Here are the 3 songs I like.
Right.
Yeah, so
yeah.
Well, the other thing is this guy took offense to the fact that we couldn't remember some of the songs we were talking about. And I think that speaks to the quality of the song.
Yeah, that definitely does. And it definitely won't happen today, because I certainly don't think many of these songs run together. But, you know, I could see in a less interesting album that could happen quite frequently.
He also said...
I believe there's a comment about us not being prepared and then seeming proud of that. Well, on point 2, guilty as charged. On point 1, I would say the lack of prep is often a posture, because that's metal.
Right.
As to whether that is the reality or not is on you, the listener, to determine. That's how you judge us guilty.
He described us as weirdly proud about it.
Yes.
And I was expecting more of an argument about Prague, about whether it's Prague. But I would say personally that 72 Seasons is more Prague than that Camelot album.
I would agree that Camelot album is the Memoriam record was more Prague.
And that was the same thing.
Depends on your reduction. Now we're talking about Camelot.
Yeah, let's
save this for Patreon.
Right, yeah. Because you're not getting any more Camelot thoughts for free.
We would do a rank the Camelot albums episode with Mike.
Yes.
There we go.
Coming in 2023.
Damn it. You keep putting deadlines on things, and then we have to do them.
Also, since we're talking about 2023, we should mention coming very soon, the movie of the year. And I know it's only April, but we already know. We knew this in January, Doug. The movie of the year, Avatar, The Way of Water. The 2-hour and 10-minute scene by scene review.
How about you do that, and I'll do a movie of my choosing
Tim.
During the episode.
Yeah.
And Tim. Yeah.
And of course, a retrospective on the first movie. One of the most popular movies of all time.
Well, I mean, you can't
All right.
talk about
All right, no,
a
I have to
masterpiece.
stop this because we need to talk about 72 Seasons.
Okay, all right.
And
Matt,
I know you
feel
want to
like
talk
Tim
about
has
Avatar.
Cut out the fantastic conversation we just had.
Well, you know what? I think Tim forgets the spirit of the Na'vi.
All right, so let's put in, there is, of course, a spreadsheet because this is podcasting down.
Yeah.
Oh, and one last thing to the Camelot guy who complained about our review. He said we uselessly divided it into 3. No. I told you to listen to the Codex episode if you want our our methodology. You didn't read, you didn't investigate the sources before you opened your big dumb face. All right, so
Exactly.
big dumb face. Speaking of which,
But thanks for listening.
yeah, thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe. So
Like and subscribe.
speaking
Smash
of
that button.
faces that are big, probably not dumb. The 72 Seasons thing. The first thing that happens when you pull it out
Whoa!
is
Ah!
James's face, and then Lars's face, and
Whoa!
Kirk's face,
Does
then-
Robert Julia?
Rob's face, and of course, Kirk looks kind of sad. Like
It does look sad.
They are
Lars
so
looks
good
ponderous.
at like ambiguously needling you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, back to 72 Seasons. Let's see the album, 72 Seasons, entering it into our spreadsheet 2023 format. What formats did you all do? I clearly have CD.
I listened on a digital streaming service.
Okay.
As did I.
Because your shipment
Because-
is stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I happen to also have it on vinyl.
Oh.
So, but I was like, I forgot that I ordered the vinyl. And weirder, the faces are much bigger on
Oh
the
my
vinyl.
God.
Hello. This
What
is
was
for
that?
the Twatchers. My wife left
What was that
me.
motorcycle show on AMC? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Those photos look like
That's cool.
these are the starring cast of the final season of whatever that motorcycle show was.
Yeah,
Yep.
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons
Is that
of
it?
Anarchy. That's it.
Yes. Didn't that have Katie Seagal in it?
It did. And in fact, it got really bad because the creator and writer of the show was married to Katie Seagal and kept making episodes about Katie Seagal instead of motorcycles.
Okay, we need to establish the genre of Metallica. I'm prepared to just say metal Period. Just call it metal.
I don't mean this snarky, but I landed on Beyond Metal.
Oh, like that's also a reference to like Beyond Magnetic, the EP they put out in 2009.
Maybe Beyond Meat.
I would like to
Dead air.
I'm thinking, I'm collecting myself. I would like to pose the genre of Metallica, and I will get into that much later into the review. But I really think that not all Metallica albums, but this Metallica album is just like Nick Cave was really upset because ChatGPT created Nick Cave lyrics that were perfect, spot on Nick Cave lyrics, and he was really upset and sad. If you fed every Metallica album into a robot and asked it to produce a sound, I think you would be satisfied with this as the like distillation of Metallica, which is why I'm offering the Metallica genre for 72 seasons.
Yeah, I could go with that. I like this kind of pushes the boundary limits of the box, but it is decidedly in the Metallica box.
Yeah.
I really like the Beyond Metal label for a variety of reasons, but I have to agree. No, I have to agree. The genre is Metallica.
Yes. Woo! That's a win.
All right. Annoyingly, this is just a gripe. If you want to like grab the CD and quickly figure out what track, you know what the track list is, you have to take it out of the slipcase, unfold all the faces, let the booklet fall out because it's a digipack and there's nowhere to put the booklet. Check the back of the booklet. Oh look, no track list. It's here inside the CD, and I realize my chroma key is like making it difficult, but it's
it's under the tray.
It's on the disc, and it's on this lower flappy bit inside.
Okay.
So there's no quick way. So like I had to like clear space while I was listening to this album, so I could like, what song is this? You know. I also this is the most times I've listened to anything we've reviewed because I saw they had the listening party the day before it came out in theaters, and I went to that, and I think that was very helpful because they interviewed the band, and before every song, for most of the songs, they talked about what the song was about, which going into a song kind of makes you appreciate what's happening more, you know. So that was my experience was a little different than yours getting the CD or just, you know, listening to the album. I got Metallica's introductions to each one.
So how long would you say that event was, right? So I'm thinking 5-minute intros to, was it like 11 tracks here?
It was easily 2 hours because there was also some stuff up front. There were previews because there was something at the end where they announced that they're gonna broadcast 2 of their shows live this summer.
Okay.
Oh, and I have to thank Mark from Fade to Black because he not only did he buy the tickets, he didn't want me to pay him back. So thank you, Mark.
Oh wow, thanks, Mark. You know I like movies. 12 tracks, 77 minutes, and then that's another. Wow, that's a commitment there.
Yeah. But they had stuff to watch. So all these music videos they've been putting out after the album release, they had all of those. Not all of them. They had most of those. And then the lyric videos, they had the backgrounds of the lyric videos during the songs that didn't have
the
music videos.
Okay, that sounds fun. I would go see that. Maybe.
And it's interesting. Like I'm kind because there's nothing more annoying than someone coming out and saying, "This is what I mean." But I think with music, it's especially with kind of this Baroque lyrical style, that added context would be valuable.
You're not like, I get it. You're not wrong, but in this case, I didn't find it annoying.
I'm also, just to be honest, upset because I couldn't get tickets to the in the movie theater final episode of Star Trek Picard, and I'm very upset because the website crashed. So there's a little jealousy in there too.
I think you can still go see the Return of the King extended edition 20-year anniversary.
Let's go. Call Dave.
He's already seen it.
I don't watch that once. That's all I needed.
All right. Act 1. So we're gonna uselessly divide this into 3 acts because I'm just so mad about that. Anyway, Act 1.
Well, I got to give him. I see side A, side B, or side 1, side 2 on an album. I could, if you don't buy the narrative flow argument, but our core position is valid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
And I feel like,
so this album is disc 1 side A and B, disc 2 side C and D.
yeah, but I still feel like there is a 3-act structure to this album.
And I think most music really, most metal records truly have that. The good ones, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what this whole exercise is about. We'll see.
Right. If it doesn't apply, that should count against its metalness.
Right. Exactly. It violates the Aristotelian unities.
Which might be why it didn't get such a good score. All right.
Tim, remember on your on that old podcast you did where you the scoring method was based on the hero's journey? So I think it was divided by 9 off the top of my head.
It was great. It was called the podcast with 1,000 ears. I believe.
So the first track on 72 Seasons is
yeah.
the title track, 72 Seasons.
Now, what the fuck does 72 seasons mean?
Okay, 72 Seasons is your first 18 years. That's what, according to James, or possibly James and his therapist, say define...
James in a self-help book.
Yeah, define you as a person. Like it molds...
and I have to say,
it's the influence of your upbringing. That's what 72 Seasons
all right,
is.
okay.
See, I found, again, your results may vary, but I was not formed at 18. I think like 18 to 20 something, I did a lot.
Well, maybe James was.
Yeah. I mean, he was a fucking rock star by 18, kind of.
That's true.
He's got it down to like, a 3-month period for when he's been molded, I suppose.
Okay.
I'll say once I knew what the lyrics were about, he does a good job of hitting stages of life, but phrasing it all in kind of an overwrought metal way.
Oh, I think he does it far better than Dave Mustaine ever did, because he tries to write about his life all the time, and it's like he's like a middle school English student trying to do it.
I have some just comments on this. I'll say for metalness, but Hetfield's lyrics are excellent throughout this record, as is his vocal performance.
Absolutely, yeah. His vocals are they got some great performances out of him.
They did. They really did. They being James.
And the producer.
And the producer.
Whoever it is, I don't know. Maybe Lars.
Produced by James Hetfield.
My first note, and this is going to come up again and again, this whole thing is very Death Magnetic. Like,
yes.
And or very hardwired. It's...
Well, I want to say, do think that there are elements of this album that are almost there are shadows and echoes of every era of Metallica in here. Now,
That's fair.
I only counted echoes of Death Magnetic, Load Reload, Black Album, and Hardwired.
okay, but I mean, there are some riffs in the second act, and this is a second act discussion. There are not. I agree. There are not early Metallica thrash songs in here, but there are elements. They're pieces of the puzzle. However,
that's a good point because I was discounting Lux Eterna because there is some new wave of British heavy metal. So
we'll be talking about that song a bit.
You're right.
But really, the first impression as I pressed play and heard the opening riffs of 72 Seasons, I got Saint Anger. I got what Saint Anger should have been. I got, this is what he was trying to do.
Right. And Rob played that with a pick, by the way.
Yeah,
he's well known for using his fingers. That's what she said. But he played with a pick in certain places.
Like, this is Saint Anger if it was given the time to not get overthought and overdone. Now it did immediately at minute 7 turn into a Death Magnetic Hardwired song because it just refused to end.
Yeah, but I have that in here a bunch of times.
Yeah, and that's a problem throughout the album. But I feel like Act 1 in particular is top heavy.
It's also not egregious in compared to Death Magnetic. The songs going on too long is not as egregious as it was on Death Magnetic.
But I do feel like it is. These are all long songs, except Lux Eterna, which we're not talking about yet. But I feel like there was just something where 72 Seasons started out saying something, and I was like, yes, I like it. Why are you still going? Wait,
he had to say Wrath of Man about 16 more times.
Yeah. And I was like, stop.
What I'll say is, unlike any of the Saint Anger and material past that, I don't think there's any songs on this record that the length just kills. They all work. Some could be improved if they were shortened.
I totally agree. Like they could have trimmed the fat a little bit, but it wouldn't have vastly improved anything.
And a lot of this record sounds written in the studio, like good jamming, improvising, and pasting that into songs, which is a double-edged sword. Is it fair to say, Tim, that probably they're at least Ride the Lightning Through and Justice are much more sort of composed?
To some degree. I know they wrote in the studio often. Because was it, I forget if it was Trapped Under Ice or Escape, they had to write then and there. They're like, they didn't walk in with the album finished. But I think all of the Black Album was just kind of just in pieces, and they went to the studio and lived there for a while, you know?
Yeah, like Kirk Hammett who because he lost his iPhone, was not able to write it all on the last record. He's all over this one. He sounds great.
Yeah.
Minor quibble, and I think it is true of this song. A lot of some of the guitar solos, they're all technically masterful. Some of them are pointlessly wanky and jammy, and some of them really add a lot to the song.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Although I could always go with more on these later Metallica albums. I could always go for more guitar. I mean, I think there's, especially when you have these 6-7 minute run times, why is there no real solo here? Like, you can play around. Like, you don't have to just do a thrashy solo. Like, be creative. Like, do something musically interesting. But yeah, it's like
I've three things to say. First, everyone's down on Kirk's, but not here, but many people are down on Kirk's solos, and he has made a point to say basically he doesn't want to play solos that just sound like he's been playing scales in his bedroom, you know?
okay, that's pretty good.
As for Kirk's writing credits, they very confusingly wrote the writing credits on here. All songs written by Hetfield Ulrich, except 72 Seasons, Crown of Barbed Wire, Chasing Light, If Darkness Had a Sun by Hetfield Ulrich Hammett. So those are the ones he wrote.
Okay.
And then Screaming Suicide, Sleep, Walk My Life Away, and You Must Burn by Hetfield Ulrich Trujillo. So,
okay.
All right, then the third thing is
hear that.
the dumbest take I've heard on this. When you said be creative, the dumbest take I've heard on this album is someone said they're out of ideas.
No.
And I'm like, but all you've complained about since 1984, 1991, 1996, 1997, 2003, 2008, and 2016 was that their new ideas did not sound like 1983, 1984,
Right.
1986, 1988.
Right.
So shut your fucking mouth. That's what I say. And I can't, so I saw that take somewhere and I can't figure out, like I scrolled past it and then I went back to look for it so I could complain about it more and tell this guy he was an idiot, but now I can't find it. I think the algorithm rightfully rejected it from my feed.
Oh, and it's like, people bitch and have since 96, and then they merely sell millions of records and sell out stadiums.
Yep.
Boo-hoo.
Okay, so let's move on to Shadows Follow, track 2. So this, and I'll say the same for Screaming Suicide, track 3. This is pretty much like the feeling of 72 Seasons. All these three songs are just like the same motif, back to back to back.
Yeah.
They should not have started off the album together. They should have been split up somehow because it's just like the same thing.
And the dynamics of each song work really well, but just hearing that same structure again and again and again and again.
Yes, but however, for Shadows Follow, I think there was more melodic interestingness that occurred by the chorus.
And it's a little shorter and a little more commercial, kind of Black Album-ish. I really like the song. Again, you could take a minute out of it.
And Shadows Follow is about how, like, there's a dark part of you and it's always with you. That's what James said.
Yeah, I liked it. I would agree. I think I would have liked it more in a different place. But the song itself is great. It's fine. It fits here. I liked it.
So they also have, like, at the end of the song, they kind of like detune. They got this quick little, and they, this happens in a couple places, not that particular thing, but kind of the, looking behind the curtain, they have like an open mic in the studio. You can hear, that was a good one, you know, that kind of thing, which I think added to, charm's not the right word, but, purposely leaving off some polish off the production, I think was a cool move.
I liked that, but I wish it had either been more consistent or
less consistent.
Less consistent.
Yeah.
Because again, it's in Act 2, but there's a couple songs I really liked that had those back to back.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that. Too much back to back.
Yeah, and then I thought, do all of these tracks have that? It's like, I remember one way in the beginning, but then I couldn't tell, like, is there a code here? Like, is Robert Trujillo dead? And they're telling me this like through these like little blurbs.
Well, at the
Well,
listening party, every song had like this weird, like, like some kind of like soundscape before it. And I think maybe after it, I was like, is that on the real thing? No, it's not.
And it's like polished to death with that retained, so it sounds unpolished. Like this is some of the most balanced production I can recall hearing.
I was gonna save that for the end, but yeah, like I'm so glad they stopped fucking around with the production because 2000, Saint Anger, everyone knows about that. Death Magnetic, people tend to forget that the master was like beyond brickwalled.
That is right.
And I can't even listen to the real release. So what they did was they released it again 7 years later with they called it the iTunes Master.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
And I actually bought that from Metallica because I was like, I can't have this version I can't listen to. And then Hardwired was like almost there, but there was at times I think there was too much snare. This album is weird because you can hear the bass.
Yeah, and the bass is really prominent.
Yeah,
in a good way, I think.
You could bitch about the drum mix a little bit. I really liked it. What I'll say is their guitar tone. Again, they're doing exactly what they want to do, and it has to be judged as that. But this doesn't sound like a metal record. This is the guitars are too clean. It's hard rock. I mean, they're playing metal style music, but it's hard rock sound and production.
I love the guitar tone. By the way, the guitar tone is fantastic.
For what they were attempting to do, it exactly in line with that. Yeah.
All right, so next is Screaming Suicide. I said dumb name. This is one of a few songs on here that has like some idea for the intro, and then maybe it'll stop and it'll just be one guitar, or maybe the idea for the intro happens, then the band comes in with like the main idea for the song, and it's just totally unnecessary. They could have just lopped that off and it would have been fine, But this also has, just like the last two, the verse has the similar vocal cadence, and until you get to the chorus, it's just kind of like, here's the same thing again.
But for some reason, I like this one better than Shadows Follow. I there's something still here that I think is more interesting, or just, like I could see Shadows Follow as like, well, we didn't have room on the hardwired disc.
I think it might be, there was, I think there's more like melodic movement in Screaming Suicide than the previous two. And that's and it's mostly in the chorus,
It sounds kind of Judas Priest-ish, which is kind of weird for them.
Well, and I think, that's kind of right, Doug, because I think this is where it's like, I heard the Saint Anger in 72 Seasons, and then Shadows Follow was just like, okay, this is like post 2010 Metallica that I am expecting, and then this one I'm like, oh, there's some older like homage, like musical references in here, even though it's still structurally and formally, a modern song. There's just some like little hints in here. I'm like, okay.
And it's more palatable because it gets down to 5 minutes 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean that helps.
An even better 4 minute 30 second song. But it works.
There's a spoken part in the bridge.
I have that noted as very good. I kind of remember that they sandbagged the chorus a bit, but the spoken word bridge I liked.
Well, I said it was kind of weird. I was thinking it was kind of weird, but I love where it goes. Because it kind of it flows great into the next section, which is like kind of another bridge verse or a bridge chorus or something.
Yeah.
They also say cyanide a lot, which is
They do say cyanide a lot.
A Death Magnetic reference.
exactly. And there's a couple other references to earlier releases. But yeah, I'm like, maybe you just keep saying cyanide because it's easy to rhyme.
Cyanide,
Then like
run and
arsenic.
hide. Yeah.
Sky, die.
Like
Yeah.
no one wants to rhyme chloroform.
Voting reform. There we go. Can do it.
Yeah, all right. Hey, you proved me wrong.
All right.
Fuck me, I
no, I
guess.
didn't say it was a good. It's a good rhyme. I just said it's a rhyme. All right. Next. So I consider "Sleepwalk My Life Away," the track 4, still part of Act 1. But
No,
this,
yeah, I agree.
Same.
But this is the first song that has a different feel from the top.
Yes, that is true. Now, I will fully admit that I was listening to "Sleepwalk My Life Away" while I was on my way to get. Well, no, I was. I needed to get coffee, so it really spoke to me. But yeah, I mean, I did like the break. This is another time, like, even though I think "Screaming Suicide," just as you said, like this is a big break, or at least a metamorphosis or transition away from like even though there's little like hints and inclinations in Screaming Suicide, like this is like, okay, well, this isn't gonna be more of just all the same kind of cookie cutter type production.
Yeah. So
Well,
Yep.
I thought the repetitiveness within the song worked quite well thematically, but was a little boring.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
well,
the most dynamic.
I mean, at this point, you can. So there's a meme that people put for this album that is like, "My wife left me," and it says it in the Metallica font. And by this point, you keep going. I hope clearly James is not doing okay when he's writing all this stuff. So, but I hope this is a better release than release of his demons than Saint Anger was.
Yeah. Oh, but also we should mention that this song has a legit guitar solo in it.
Well, they all have guitar solos.
I mean, but this has like an actual like sound, like signboarded, like not like, was that a guitar solo? But here's like a very here's the guitar break.
Well, Kirk said in an interview recently, which I don't know if I can find again, that he is just trying to play what works in the moment. He's like trying to capture the moment. So I think a lot of it is improvised. But
He sounds like a very talented man attempting to capture the moment.
yeah. Let's see. The I said the pre-chorus is reloady or perhaps Alice in Chainsy.
Yeah,
That's
I think
Which I liked.
reloady.
yeah.
This is, I got lots of reload kind of notes here. Like a not somewhere between like King Nothing and the Outlaw Torn, but musically, like thematically, so like substancy like that, but not musically like that. But there's moments there.
And also the just like the last bridge, I like how the one section flowed into the other. This one has a great, the end of the chorus the vocals lead the chords into the verse or the main riff or whatever, and I like that touch. Like, I think they've gotten better at like assembling some of these songs relative to some of Hardwired.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see. The outro, totally unnecessary, like many of the outros, but I think this one works as is. And this has another unpolished ending, which I think was an open mic in the studio.
Okay. Okay.
This is the one where someone says that was good, right?
Yeah. No, I was pulling into Wawa when that happened. So I thought like my window was open and some guy was commenting on the music, but no, it was on the record. But that confused me.
Now, engineer, can you just turn up the open mic just a hair?
Okay, so for me, that's the end of Act 1. I don't know if anyone...
I agree. I think that's the end of Act 1.
All right, so Act 1, rating, scale from 0 to 10. I can start if you want.
Yeah, please.
It's there's lots of good ideas. It would be nice if it was a little more diverse, but there's lots of there's still a lot of interesting musicianship on here.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to give it an extremely strong score because I know where the album goes. So I'm gonna start with a 7.5.
I'm gonna go with a 7. Every song works, but they're also similar. This third of the record is kind of less than the sum of its parts, a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7.1. Just because I think part of me is it's functionally good. It is structurally fine. It is well produced. And I really like the first 3/4 of the opening track as a way to introduce the album. But I think that there might be some like all these little hints and all these little sort of like musical memories, like I don't want to call them member berries because I don't want to say it's like audio nostalgia, but there's enough in here where it's like, how much of this is a legitimately good beginning of an album, and how much is it playing on tropes that I associate with Metallica that I like, right? And so, and that's why going back to like my AI generated Metallica album, like especially here in the front, like there are hooks. I'm like, oh, I'm hooked. Like, am I being like hypnotized and sort of brought along, or do I generally actually like it? So, yeah, I think that's about right.
We happen to have James Hetfield on the line. James, what do you think of our scores for this act? Shit. Okay.
Oh,
well,
shit.
We'll check back in with him later. All right, Act 2. Starting with track, whatever number that is, 5. You must burn! !
Good use of the exclamation point.
Yep. So this one has like the heavy groove in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of Sabbath or even typo negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's yet another good melodic transition. This time, like after the chorus, back into the heavy riff. It's very interesting because it doesn't quite resolve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the keys changing around, and it's not like satisfying when it gets to the when it gets back to the main riff, and I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
And you said it was Sabbathy, but when you get to the bridge, if the song wasn't Sabbathy enough for you, it gets really Sabbathy in the bridge. And but then it just kind of does this weird vocal effect in the bridge.
Yeah, but how do they do? I have vocoder written, but that's totally not what it is. How do they do that?
It reminds me of Where the Wild Things Are from Reload.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it's a phaser or a flanger or something. It's just some kind of modulation effect. A vocoder, at the risk of losing listeners with a technical explanation of a vocoder, is it takes the harmonic content of your voice and replaces it with whatever note you input. So it's altering the signal in the frequency domain and then putting it back into the time domain. So that's why you get this robotic sound with a vocoder.
Wow.
No, that's a talk box.
Oh, damn it.
That actually has a little speaker in it that goes
That's
up the
a speaker in it?
Yeah, it goes up the tube into your mouth, and then your mouth creates the resonances and the frictives and so forth that your mic picks up. So anytime you see anyone with a talk box, they're using their microphone. Because the guitar sound is going into their mouth and then into the microphone.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically working like a band filter. So anyway,
that's pretty cool.
Anyway, I know you've been wanting to talk about the next song. If we're done with "You Must Burn!" exclamation.
Wait. One of the only pieces I try to maintain objectivity, so I avoided all press and merch and other information about this album. But one thing I did know about this album that I believe Google Alerts told me is that Robert Trujillo is doing backing vocals on this track. Could you hear that?
Oh.
I couldn't really get it.
I didn't know what songs he did it on, because there's backing vocals all over the place, but I couldn't pick out any instance of where I'm like, oh, that's Rob.
And I was hoping for, like, again, you mentioned Where the Wild Things Are. Like, I was hoping for some like Reload level, like, oh yeah, there's the bassist singing his little tune. But yeah, so he's allegedly, according to the liner notes and that Google article I read, like singing somewhere in here. But all through this album, I was like, is that Robert Trujillo? No. Is that? No. He's somewhere, but I didn't hear him.
Well, I want to say about this whole act, there's less of Metallica eating their own tail here, and they're drawing more on sort of external influences, which is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Agreed.
Yep. All right, next one.
So good track. Take a minute out. Maybe even a great track.
Maybe a minute and a half.
All right, Lux Eterna.
All right.
This is the only song that is not about sad James. So, it's about playing concerts or being at a concert.
Yeah.
I think it's weird to put it at this point in the album. And my suspicion is they have the slowest, heaviest song, so let's put the thrashiest song right after it. That's my guess. But it doesn't fit thematically. I would have stuck it like first or second.
Yeah, they got that right in that song they're too proud of, Hardwired. And honestly, this is that song again. I think it's a good song. It's getting a little too much hype because it's fast on a slow album. But it's fine.
It's interesting because to me, even though it is like faster and thrashier, I feel like it's much more like the fast part of.
That was a mistake.
What was that?
That was an awe.
Like, what was the first single off of Death Magnetic?
Was that end of the line, or I forgot the order they came out.
Okay, but there's a fast part of that song, right? And so it reminds me of that kind of fast transition much more than the immediate, like, oh, here's old school Metallica. I can see why dummies just think they're playing fast. That means it's old Metallica. But this is a very different kind of fast Metallica. Like, there's thrashy elements, of course. They're Metallica. They can play thrash music.
The day that never comes was the first
day
single.
that never comes, right? So it's like it's all long and weepy, and then all of a sudden it's like the that kind of thing. Don't contact match us, please. Don't sue us, Metallica. I think it's more like that.
Well, Tim, is it fair to say that this is the new album callback, and we're all supposed to notice the Diamond Head lyric reference. Like, this is kind of them more purely going to that sound than maybe they've done in 40 years.
Yeah, I think it's them trying to write a Kill 'Em All song to some degree.
Yeah. But not like a totally. No. But they're still maintaining their modernness.
I think it works.
I like it might be my favorite track because I'm one of those dummies who's like, they play it fast. But
people like it live.
Get in and out in 3 minutes 26 seconds. You can complain about that.
I
can cook an egg to it.
We've been playing it in Fade to Black, and the crowds love it, and we like it because it's short enough that you can jam it into any set.
Yeah.
All right, next. Crown of Barbed Wire. So, another song with a pointless intro. They could just lop it off and it'd be fine. I did note that I'm glad he consistently pronounced wire as the same, like, 1.5 syllables. Because I was worried I was going to hear wire and then wire, But I think they were good at being consistent with saying wire, barbed wire, and he says it over and over and over again.
Well, he consistently, from my perspective, mispronounced Pierce.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a regionalism, but he says Pyres.
Oh, pierce me with torment.
I didn't get it the first couple of times. I was like, oh.
I'm going to have to listen for that now. I think the chorus is just weird.
Yeah.
And probably due to that, this might be my pick for the weirdest and weakest song on the album. I don't know what it is.
You didn't like that groove metal gallop that appears like 3 times?
Yeah. Well, the bridge goes into like 2x4 load territory.
Yep.
But like, if I had to pick an existing era where that barbed wire chorus comes from, it would be like very deep on Reload. Like, something that you'd skip over, and it's just like so prominent on this song. I'm like,
I like this song. Basically, this is the one I have where, like, a more traditional, thrash metal guitar tone would help.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. Rounding. So I end the act after the next song, Chasing Light.
Yep, agree.
As do yep.
All right. This opens with a weird "There's no light." And
well,
then
yeah, that's
the
why
song
you're chasing
starts.
it.
Yeah, well, I don't like it starting off the track, but I do like it when it's paired with the line before it in the chorus.
Yeah.
Without darkness, there's no light. Which
Okay.
it sounds to me like they
True.
just took one of the choruses, the "There's no light," and copied it and stuck it at the beginning of the song.
And make that sound natural. Put a more ambient mic.
So this is yet another pointless intro song. It's just like a riff that doesn't go anywhere, and then they kick into the song. So it's so again, just lop that off. I noticed the verse riff is atypical for Metallica. I think if I remember correctly, it's like a starty stoppy riff.
Yeah, it's like a plotting kind of like look at da you kind of this thing.
There's a typo in my
going
notes.
back to Sabbath a bit.
There's a typo in my notes. I said kind of meal compared to other tracks. So I wonder what meal should have been.
Well, I think this is fine, but it's the fourth time we've heard this basic template on this record, at least the fourth time. And it's, again, a minute or two too long. Take this down to 4 minutes something. Much more impactful.
Yep. All right, Act 2. I would call it weaker than Act 1. However, it does have Lux Eterna, and it does have the heaviest groove on the album in You Must Burn. And, there's some experimentation here and there, so I'm not going to ding it too much. So, I will be giving this a 7 for Act 2.
Yeah, you know what? Go ahead, Doug.
Give it a 7 and bump my first act up to 7.5.
Oh, we're tied up.
I'm actually gonna give this a 7.2.
You like it more than Act 1?
Well, it's weird. I didn't enjoy. I think listening to the album straight through, I don't think I enjoyed the placement of these tracks. But I think if I thinking about them in isolation, I think I like some of these tracks more than the second track. I could happily have Lux Eterna there, right? So I think in a weird way, they're functionally tired. Especially like what's this? There's no light, right? Like some of these things is like, okay, all right. But at the same time, I think if I was going to listen to a track, I think I might be selecting tracks from this act more than its placement within the narrative of the album.
Yeah, I mean, these 4 songs, arguably 2 of the 4 sound very similar. And the songs of the first act are stronger overall, but there's more variety here.
Yeah. Like if you said, "Hey, you're gonna have to listen to a third of this album," I might pick the middle. It'd probably save me like 8 minutes too.
I would not pick the middle, but we'll come to that. All right.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Act 3 starts with "If Darkness Had a Son." So, Temptation is his father. It starts off with just drums, and I think that goes on too long. It's a good build. It's just too many times.
Yes.
So in the theater, they said James is like picturing when they play it live, the crowd to come in with "Temptation, Temptation," which is the first line of the song. And So they said that, and then they played the song, and I was like waiting for some kind of cue, some kind of musical cue to know when here comes Temptation. And it, even listening to it 2 or 3 more times, I could not figure out when Temptation comes in. And part of the problem is it comes in on a backbeat. So the crowd, I'm warning you now, if you go see Metallica, you're going to need to practice when to come in with Temptation. It's on 2.
I hope they have.
It's on 2.
I hope they have like one of the warm up acts like work the crowd. Like, all right, guys, just so you know, when this song is played, you're gonna have to do a little work yourself. So let's practice it now.
Yep. And I said there's another reloading sounding vocal technique they used in the first verse. I love the chorus. I think it's great. And I think
the chorus was kind of Danzig like.
Okay, well, I take it back then.
No, I mean that in a good way.
You just ruined his favorite song.
Danzig 1 through 4, not the shit ones. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's.
And I think the bridge of this song is a better bridge than a lot of the other songs because there's more development of ideas from earlier in the song. But once again, the outro, too long, too much.
Yeah. But there's a good. It's structurally good if you lopped off the head and the tail, right? The nose is too long and the tail is too long. But if you made it a svelte pit bull,
in this
like
case,
make it a pit bull
in this
instead
case,
of a
in this case, I wouldn't chop it. Maybe I'd squish it.
Just squish it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's. I think I've noted same song but better. Like this is the 5th time we've heard this, and this is a good version of that song.
Of all the versions of this song, this is my favorite.
All right, next, Too Far Gone.
Okay, now again, this popped up on the Spotify, and now it's like minute 54, and I was like, yeah, Metallica, it is.
So the point of this song is, am I too far gone to be saved?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, this is clearly James going like, oh, I'm fucked up, I'm beyond help. But then it has a very therapy-like conclusion where in the last chorus he says, no, you're not too far gone to be helped. So,
I did like that. Yeah, I mean, I personally like bleak music, and so I just like, actually, you're still good.
yeah, well, I can't decide if it's if
ironic,
it's good that the song kind of has a happy ending because the whole thing might be too upbeat for the lyrical thing until the end. And it's like, oh, okay.
I believe the language used at the end is 12 steps language.
Oh yeah,
probably. I believe it is. Yeah,
that, but I've read that multiple places.
I don't know. I wonder if James is
people,
in.
So
I wonder if James is in 12 step because, most people who are don't shut up about it. Stephen King, Mike Portnoy.
I think I can almost guarantee that this is 12-step language here. But I also like this track because it's well edited. This could have been like it could have said just for today 19 times on a weird fade out like jingle jangle thing, right? This like I want this track. This is like this proves to me you can get these ideas out. There's plenty of emotion, there's plenty of personality, there's lots of interesting music, and you bring it in under 5 minutes. Like
I think it comes back to them sort of using external references because it sounds very punky, kind of Misfits like.
Yeah, I mean,
And
sure.
of course, they get it done in 4 minutes 34 seconds if that's the objective.
Okay, all right, okay, true. Well, yeah, if anything, it's twice as long as a Misfits song should be. So maybe they're not editing, but okay, yeah. I still I like the fact that there's time variation. Like I like having a long track when it makes sense, and a short track when it makes sense. Not all ideas need the same expansive like Boyle's law. Let's fill all the available space. And so I liked that in addition to these musical themes and lyrical themes here.
Are you aware
Yeah,
of?
I'm going to save it for our metal factor
Okay. Yeah.
section, but I have some comments on the Metallica being emotionally affecting, and that not necessarily being common, but I think that's a big part of their appeal to a large audience. And I think this song, the whole record, in fact, exemplifies that and does it in a impactful and sincere way.
Are you aware of the 12-step suite by Dream Theater?
Yes, because I listened to the
horrible.
Iced Earth Iceberg episode.
The Dream Theater.
It's
Iceberg.
like, oh, the Dream Theater
Yes, Iceberg.
Iceberg episode. Like it's podcast down 4, I believe.
I am not doing an Iced Earth Iceberg level, especially because people know most of the iceberg now.
And don't look at that iceberg.
Right.
But Tim, it is melting for natural reasons.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. So the 12-step suite is a series of songs, mostly written by Mike Portnoy, lyrically at least, that goes across several Dream Theater albums and is basically a hidden album. Okay? So, and this is a fact, if it was a Dream Theater album, it would be the worst one.
I like how that's a fact.
Yeah. Look it up. Look it up. So the track list is The Glass Prison, which has 3 of the 12 steps from 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, then Train of Thought, from Train of Thought, This Dying Soul, which is 2 steps, Octavarium's The Root of No Evil, 2 more steps, Systematic Chaos's Repentance, 2 more steps, and then Black Clouds and Silver Linings, The Shattered Fortress, which has the final 3 steps. And it is like unabashedly pro 12 step because Mike Portnoy wrote all the lyrics. So, and if you want the short version, I'd say listen to The Shattered Fortress because they have distilled all the previous songs, took only the best parts, so you don't have to listen to like James LaBrie trying to rap in This Dying Soul. And
well, I'm still gonna listen to that
and condensed it into The Shattered Fortress. So that is, it's a like that's as bad as a 12-step song gets, and I think this Metallica one's pretty good. So no, I do like parts of the 12-step suite, but yeah, Too Far Gone I think is a good song. That's where I'm going.
Does because we're but again save some of this, but Matt, what's the dramaturgy term? Diegetic, like sort of things existing in the universe of the text, and then sort of things that exist outside that.
Yeah,
and I would say a lot of expressions of emotion in metal are essentially performative, right? And it's not like all music isn't, that it's a spectrum. And I would say metal is less emotionally sincere than some musical genres.
Okay.
Once you get past disappointment, anger, rage, other things sound the way they sound because that's the intent of the song, right?
Yeah,
If you tell me Dream Theater is writing something, a 12-step song, I would hear a intellectualized expression of 12 steps and the emotion generic person goes through. I would expect that to come out more than one person's particular journey and feeling that.
Precisely, right? Like this is just James Hetfield's 12-step journey versus like a song about being in the 12 steps. It's very self-referential. It's like it's James talking about it versus a meditation on the process.
Well, and I mean, just spill everything right here, but it's like, why do normal fucking people listen to music? Right?
Right.
One of the things is to sort of get emotional markers. I love that Stain song. It reminds me of where I was at that point in life, right?
Right.
That's how many people interact with music. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist in metal. People don't connect with metal in that way, but it's like, gosh, yeah, I can't listen to Slayer's Mask of Sin too much, or Mask of Skin, whatever it is.
Dead Skin Mask.
It really reminds me of great times I spent with my father.
Right.
So that's like a special song.
Like
That song
when I
reminds
listen to
me of
Mel
college.
T,
That song reminds me of college hanging out with Aaron because he put it on a lot.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And it's kind of interesting, the feelings versus emotion. Anyway, but I think in like regular people listen to music to feel things or to be reminded of things they felt. And this is me speaking personally in my experience of metal, but I view a lot of it as kind of a lark, right?
right.
It's the performative aspect and sort of the detachment that is part of the appeal generically of the genre. I think one of the things Metallica does is break that wall down in a way you might associate with like country music to regular people, or Stain. Because I was thinking about it, even Godsmacked or Disturbed, like why has no big metal bands? Why are those the bands that are that have followed in Metallica's wake?
Right,
We know
right.
hard rock sort of plummeted, but they're the biggest band sort of in a heavy style. And it's not the cartoonish stuff. It's not the H.P. Lovecraft stuff, even though especially Disturbed does write some of that. It's the songs about feelings and that are relatable to people that allow them to fill stadiums or arenas.
I think that is precisely what makes every musician inspired by Metallica angry, and every bro dog who loves Metallica happy.
Yeah, well, like that's when they got huge, was when James wrote about his feelings.
Yeah.
And Enter Sandman is about feeling scared when you're trying to sleep, from your nightmares.
Yeah.
And well, think about any song on Justice. By contrast, Blackened's about pollution, and Justice for All is about the corrupt justice system.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess the closest thing would be one, which is about getting your arms and legs and face blown off and how it makes you feel. And that was the biggest.
I would say one is sort of the start of Metallica's emotional resonance to people, because that song means a lot to veterans. I think that was sort of the hook, and they kind of furthered that on the Black Album and beyond, and are now the third best-selling artists of the last 40 years.
Yeah.
And the best-selling metal band of all time by far.
Yeah.
This is a good segue into the next song, even though it's your analysis of the whole album. So if you're ready to move on, I know Matt was about to say something.
No, I was gonna make another Mel C reference, but then the
that's
moment
okay.
passed.
Room of Mirrors, the second to last track, the penultimate track, is about James coming home from tour and entering the room of mirrors, his family, and being judged by them because he can't immediately transition back into regular life, like taking the kids to school.
And the relatability to the average listener is there. Like, because I was thinking about this, because sure, we got lots of bands that sing about sad things, the whole gothic doom metal scene, like every other My Dying Bride album, I just want to kill myself halfway through. But it's intellectualized, right?
Can we talk about that? Because it's so bad, or because they've depressed you so much?
It can be two things.
Both.
Okay.
But it's I love Paradise Lost. They're one of my favorite bands. But I was thinking about it, and it's like, have I ever listened to one of these songs about very sad things because that's where I am, and this is speaking to me. And I'm sure people have and do. But it's like, when he's let me drown, let me drown. It's just like, this is aesthetics. This is a theme. I'm not saying it isn't sincere, but it's different. It's more abstracted and therefore less relatable than what Hetfield does throughout this.
There was an interview with My Dying Bride a long time ago where the guy said something along the lines of, emotions are very interesting to me, and that's why I write about despair. And the interviewer said, so are you going to write about a different emotion than despair sometime? The guy, he basically said no. So we'll see.
And then he broke down into tears.
So musically, the song is another great melodic movement.
Yep.
Between the pre-chorus and the chorus and back.
It's kind of maidenish even.
I can hear that. Yeah, I can see that.
The I think the way they do the chorus is a little awkward, but I also think that makes it interesting. Like, it's not bad awkward, it's just awkward. There's also another reference to Death Magnetic with Broken Beat and Scarred.
Yeah.
He says that line.
But
I think the structure worked better. But the beginning of this song is the same formula, band intro, then one guitar, then the band comes in. Yeah. They could have cut everything before the band comes in and it would have been fine. Yeah, you were saying?
No, but I mean, like, even though it starts out that same formula, I do like, it sounds different. Like these tracks, like this last act, succeeds in sounding different. Like, I can distinguish the second half of the album much better than I could the first half.
Yeah,
right?
Well, the specific line where I thought it sounded awkward was like, you might judge, you might just bury me, or you might set me free. Yeah, that whole thing. It's just like kind of like, what?
But it's interesting. I mean, I'm not sure. It's cool that they attempted that, even though I'm not sure that they succeeded in what they were trying to do. But it's cool.
I think it's, again, to the credit of the quality of the songs, that so many of these songs are handicapped by 1 to 2 minutes of pointlessness and all still basically work pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like
I like this song. I have earns its intensity once it gets going.
Yeah,
and this is one of the few songs that just ends, right?
Yeah, it just goes until it stops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of the songs older Metallica songs could greatly benefit from just taking an ice cream scoop, and just, all right, that part's gone. That part's gone. Much tighter song. This, if he did that here, I know I've pretty much said this, but you go and you don't improve it as much. You know, it will be slightly better, but then Lars doesn't get to say we have a 77-minute album. So, rounding out that 77 minutes.
Speaking of which,
is the longest ever Metallica song beating, well, let's see how much it beat Outlaw Torn by. That's a good question.
Oh, that's a good question.
All right, so Inamorata is the song. It is 11 minutes and 10 seconds. The album cut of the Outlaw Torn on Load is 9 minutes 48 seconds. And there is a longer version. I think they call it the unencumbered by manufacturing restrictions version of the Outlaw Torn. I
think the S&M version is very long too.
Let's see.
The S&M version is
it's just a bunch of
10
filler.
minutes.
It's a jam. So it's only 10 minutes and 43 seconds. The unencumbered version. Yeah, it's a jam. There's no not too much substance. You're just kind of grooving on the riff, like the kids say. All right, so Inamorata.
Where fashion fits, grooving on the riff.
11 minutes, 10 seconds. I didn't feel like it was 11 minutes in a good way.
You know what? This is the longest song, but I will agree it did not feel like the longest song. And it kind of earns its 11 minutes.
That's exactly what I have written. Earns length.
I do think the outro could have been cut by 40 seconds, but sure. I don't think there's there is a problem with editing, especially in the first half of the album. But I don't think there's a problem with editing here. It's a good long song. And again, I have no problem with long songs if they're good, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I feel like all these bands, as sort of they go from reestablishing their commercial success, end up in these more proggy things. And I think of Priest and Maiden, they end up doing on one of these late period albums, their longest song. And they're all intentionally their longest song. And this is the first one, they pushed it to 11:10, so it was indisputably their longest song. But this one truly works and earns it, and dynamic throughout. You can hear the band. There's some Rush, there's some Sabbath, even some early Priest in here. I love it.
I got some other things. There is a line where he says she waits. That reminded me of one of the recent Rammstein songs.
Yep.
Because it's got that echo. That is definitely, and I can't put my finger on which song it was, but it's on one of the last two albums. So Liebe ist for alle da, or it was just Untitled. No, there's three.
There's three
most recent albums. Yeah, Zeit, Untitled, and Liebe. So
I like how we're reviewing a Metallica album like it's a wine. Like I'm getting Iron Maiden notes. There's some Rammstein in the mid palate.
Well, that
I think that's because we're talking about the band just like I said, eating their own tail for the first four songs. So I think it's good progression in the record.
Yeah, the bass when it's just bass and hi-hat.
Very Sabbath.
So I was thinking Spirit Caravan in particular off of Paranoid, Sabbath's album Paranoid. And this is the first almost clean guitar part on the album because every Metallica album, with the exception I think of Saint Anger, has a ballad, and it's usually around the fourth. Oh, and Kill 'Em All. It's usually around the fourth track. So this one has had no clean guitar whatsoever until
That's
the bridge
right.
of this song. And
That's
then they
right,
got
yeah.
the harmonized solos. They were specifically saying whenever they do the harmonized guitar leads that they're it's Thin Lizzy-ish to them. But
Okay.
I didn't listen to Thin Lizzy. So it sounds maiden-y to me. And I do not mean that as an insult, which I feel like we have to clarify, especially
Right.
after 2023's Iron Maiden coming up on Podcasting Down for the month of May. So, let's see, there's a reference to My Friend of Misery in here. This song as a whole sounds like a Load song to me, but a deep cut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. I said the song could have probably ended at 9 minutes, but the outro isn't as aimless as it is in some other songs.
Right. And that's what I'm saying with the editing, right? Like, even though there is a long outro, it is still not as kind of an insufferably long outro where you're just like doing the same. There's kind of disengagement and disentanglement, which I like.
It's okay to drag out an outro on the last song of the record.
Yeah.
That
But not
actually-
song 3.
Well, I'd say this is another fantastic album closer from Metallica, because you remember Hardwired ended with Spit Out the Bone, which is like the polar opposite of this song, except for in length. And they're both fantastic.
Now, I should say that my experience of the end of this album was a little different than everybody else's, again, because of Spotify. So right after this, they just put a random Testament song in my queue, and I was like, holy shit, this is what I'm talking. Oh, it's Testament.
What album was it from? Do you know?
I don't even remember. It was just like,
because if it was Souls of Black, then fuck yeah.
It was like just randomized Testament song. It's like, well, I know what this guy wants to hear now.
Yeah, the quality on that is widely varying.
Yeah.
All right. And I love the chorus. Misery. He says misery a whole lot.
Didn't notice.
I counted. Do you want to hazard a guess?
Oh no. He's got to say it 20 times.
Do you have a guess?
What did I guess in our chat? I made that up, but I think it was 12.
It is more than 12. It is more than 20.
Oh my God.
This is including the verses.
Okay.
I'll let you. Go ahead and guess again.
Get another guess. Go ahead. You get to guess first this time, Doug.
42.
I'm going to guess 72.
All right, you're both.
One for each season.
Nice. Okay, well, you win for your answer, but you're way off. You're over by 50. He said it 22 times. You were very
22.
close.
That is 2 a minute.
Well, yeah, that's why the song's so long, to spread those out. Spread all those miseries out.
You can't contain the misery in such a small container.
That's right. Okay, so for Act 3, just to review, we got Inamorata, Room of Mirrors, Too Far Gone, If Darkness Had a Sun. I want to give it a perfect score for Act 3. I want to give it 10, but I won't. I'll give it 9.5. Okay. I think it's the best album closing act by a significant margin over everything else we've looked at this year, and just in general. It's a great album.
Yeah. You're right. They nailed the third act.
Yeah. I am not a huge fan of If Darkness Had a Sun.
Here I am.
I do.
Just real quick, we didn't check in with James on Act 2.
We don't give a shit.
Oh fuck! All right, yeah. Thanks for calling in for that, James. He's been waiting.
But Too Far Gone, Room of Mirrors, and Inamorata are my favorite songs on this album. Kind of as the numbers get bigger, the hits get whatever that. Yeah, I think this is a 9.
Yeah, 9 here.
Wow. All right.
I only do fractionals when I modify my score, which I have not done
Okay,
yet.
we'll wait for it.
So we do have 2 more categories to talk about: presentation and the trueness/metalness. So the presentation, stark yellow everywhere, as you can see. It's
But
the album cover is like
I like that yellow.
all items you associate with childhood and growing up, and they've all been burned to shit. So
Yeah, I mean, once you told me what the fuck 72 seasons mean, I thought it makes a lot more sense, because I thought it meant James wants to burn his family.
well, we don't know that he doesn't want to.
Okay, all right, okay. But the fact that that's his life makes, I hope, makes a lot more sense to me. I do like it. I mean,
So
I think it's well constructed. I hope it's a practical photo. I'm not sure that it is,
I
but
It
if it,
looks like artwork some very rich people in San Francisco would do.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I don't necessarily mean in a negative way.
I believe they did, but in the theater they also had video moving around the space.
okay. Oh, then I like it even more. Then
So it's not some Photoshop hack job. Okay, to their credit. Because the
So-
way I see it, it's like, they do some mock-ups and then, Lars is like, we can't make a decision on these mock-ups. Just, let's spend 200,000 with 3 artists and make the decision of the final product. And that gets you 10% more quality, probably.
So there's
it's definitely the best Metallica album cover since the Black Album.
I didn't. Yeah,
That's it.
I don't know. I mean, I think they're all weird because they're trying to be so arty.
I don't know. It's better than Load. It's definitely better than Reload.
And they were literally being arty.
It's better than Saint Anger. It's better than Death Magnetic is a good album cover, but it's better than that. It's better than
Would you say that
Lulu.
the Death Magnetic cover ties into the record thematically?
It does.
It's just
a
very
magnet.
expensive abstract images of them. I mean, hardwired. Yes,
yeah.
it gets
Yeah.
that word connection there. I really like this art. It's their first. Jesus, would it be since And Justice that either literally or figuratively ties into the subject matter?
Well, they had the snake on the Black Album for "Don't Tread on Me," I guess.
And the magnet's a magnet for magnetic.
So, more about just the physical presentation, the like all the artwork and the inside, which is
that's-
not transparent, despite what my chroma key wants. So
It's
on the
made out
outside
of
is
this
all the
amazing
pictures.
material.
All the inside is like close-ups of some of the burn stuff, and of course, you can turn it into the Rammstein logo whenever you want, because it's a big plus.
That's a plus.
It comes in a slipcase, so cover on the front. On the back is cutouts. It's just yellow, and it has 72 in it, but it's cut out in such a way that looks like either the bars of the crib or the bars of jail.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty cool.
All right, and then, like I said, there's no track list anywhere but inside. So that's the CD. The LP is I think this is called a gatefold, and it still has the 72
72.
cutouts. And then,
I like how they have Team Money right up there.
yep, and then the sleeves of the records are in are the big photos of the band, and then it has one sheet of liner notes. So all the songs are in a column, in their own column.
On any of these releases, does the band's name or the album name appear on the exterior of the art, front or back?
Just on the spine.
I do like the M.
And on the back it says 72
okay.
Seasons Metallica. Yeah, they also the vinyl is yellow splatter, so it's this yellow color with white and black splatter. I think it's a limited edition. I don't know. Aren't all records limited editions?
Pretty much.
Yep. And then that's what I was gonna say. I found a typo.
Oh,
That exists in both the CD and the vinyl version. And that is listing the Metallica members. Of course you can't see it. All right, listing the Metallica members, there is no space between Kirk Hammett and the dash for guitars. So everyone else is
guitar.
Everyone else is Lars Ulrich, space dash space drums, and Kirk Hammett is Kirk Hammett dash space guitars.
So when the album is recalled, we'll know why.
Yeah.
So that's why that was the typo.
Please use the
Production
self-addressed stamp envelope to return your album so that it can be corrected.
All right, so I once again I will be starting with a perfect score and deducting for all the things I don't like. I don't like digipacks. I wouldn't mind just a regular jewel case. But other than that and the typo, I'm gonna subtract 0.1 for the typo and 1 for the digipacks. I'm gonna go 8.9.
Okay. I mean, I too dislike digipacks, but I think if you are going to use a digipack, make it count.
They made it
right?
count.
So
I'll give them that.
I like the creativity.
Agreed.
You couldn't do that with a regular jewel case. If you're, no one's going to buy a CD unless it's a cool, tangible thing to have these days.
Another fair point. However, they should send me both.
Okay, sure. But no, I agree. I'm gonna give it a 9. Whoops. I'm gonna give it a 9 because I think it's a quality presentation. I like yellow. Yellow is very underutilized in everything. Yeah.
And it sounds like I know a bit about making catalogs and things, and almost everything these days is computer generated. Like that, they actually hired a photographer, went into a studio, burned some stuff, and painted it black. That is not the starting point. You could get 90% of that quality, just using a computer. It's a 9. The one issue I have, I'm okay with them not putting the logo on the cover. That's fine.
Just an M in the corner.
Yeah, that's my problem. Either commit to the logo or take out the M.
Whoa.
And not a factor in my score, but when did that logo, sort of the more slightly simplified, punky, was that Saint Anger or did Death Magnetic where they started using that?
No, I think it's not. What was that movie?
Saint Anger has its own logo. It's like a dumb-looking one. And then for Death Magnetic, or possibly Through the Never, they went back to, I forgot which came out first. But right after Saint Anger, they went back to their original logo, but just like, the crisp version.
Yeah, so Death Magnetic has the classic Metallica word art. Lulu has Lulu. Beyond Magnetic has the
album.
M's. Okay, yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
it is. Beyond Magnetic.
No, it's a
that's
Lou Reed
discussion.
album with Metallica.
Okay, fine. Death Beyond Magnetic, that little EP thing, had the M's, but not in the logo form. Hardwired had like a weird, like staticky version of the word type.
They called it glitchy. The
Yeah.
glitch.
So Through the Never had it as like a graffiti. S&M2 had it breaking through the cello. So it's really recent. It's like, post 20.
It looks great. It's a good, I don't even know if you'd call it a simplification, but kind of a clarification of the classic logo.
All right, and
So
finally,
put the whole thing on your next album, Metallica.
yes, I agree. All right, and then finally for trueness and metalness, I believe I've already said all the points I want to hit on that.
Yeah.
The production's good. They stopped trying to be too clever with the production by turning up the snare or brick walling the master or recording in a paint can. So and yeah, this whole thing is very Metallica, and I think that's also kind of reflected in our genre. It's very true to itself. Sure, there's lots of influences that you could pick out a lot of the times, but I mean, still, do I want to give it a perfect score is the real question.
Well, I think we got to address part of to be true, you have to say you're metal, and that a lot of people say they're metal and aren't metal. What I appreciate about Metallica's all over the place, right? Like even I'm reading things with Hetfield, and he's asked a question about heavy metal, and then it's been tough times for hard rock. So they do that, but I think I have to contrast it with Maiden, right? Because I forget if it's Bruce Dickinson or Steve Harris too, but they'll be like, "Oh, heavy metal. I've never understood why they call us that. I always thought of this as heavy progressive blues."
Yeah.
Here's the thing about Metallica: they fill stadiums, and half of the people in there, maybe more, are people who fell in love with the band over the radio. They're rock people. They're people who connect with the band and music, and may not be part of the metal scene more broadly. So it's okay for Metallica to say whatever they want. Maiden, everyone that's fucking filling those shows are metal people, as they deny being a metal band.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the difference. Metallica doesn't pretend to be anything but Metallica. It's where they are. That's what they do. And they respect the fans, frankly.
I love that analysis, and I love that it's the preview for Metallica. We have a lot to say about Maiden.
Exception and talking about heavy blues.
Okay, well, so do you want to assign a number to all those words?
Such an engineer.
It's hard to say, right? Because I was arguing for and against at the same time.
That's the problem I'm having. Well,
I mean, 8.
8 for Doug.
8.
I want to leave room for improvement, so I'll go 9.5. I will not do a perfect score.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I do believe that this is the truest Metallica album to come out in quite a while, of new material to come out in quite a while. I think this is kind of maturing. It's both the maturation of this like death magnetic hardwired sound, but I hope it also indicates the transcendence, and maybe we can branch out a bit. So I think Metallica has never been truer in their kind of post cutting their hair age. Like if you were making that bright line at the Black Album, if you want, right? I feel like this is much more of an authentic expression of what everyone loves about Metallica. There's still some weight. There's still some editing that needs to get done. As Tim said, there's room for improvement. But I like where this is, especially for a bunch of 60-year-old men.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's another good point. Then again, I mean, Judas Priest put out a fantastic album. And they're even older.
Sure, but I feel like they're in a weird way. I mean, Judas Priest's history is complicated, but I feel like their narrative is less complicated than Metallica's narrative.
Yeah, that's a fair. Bump me up to 8.5, actually. So here's the thing: 50% of the world was going to hate this record, or say they hate it, or say everyone was going to say everything, no matter what Metallica did, and they just blow it off at this point.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? We're Metallica.
So it hasn't published yet, but soon is a Fade to Black video of us playing a Reload song, I believe. And I guess I was feeling combative when I wrote the little text description, because it's basically like, you love this song, don't fucking deny it. And something along those lines. And it's just like people come up to us all the time like, I don't like Metallica before whatever year that is. Yeah. And it's always before Load and Reload. And then I see the same fucking people singing along to King Nothing, Fuel, The Memory
Ain't My
Remains. Bitch. We still don't do that one. There's not much demand for it. Well, even though it's pretty much the same song as Load, the Fuel. So
yeah.
Anyway,
the one thing this album's kind of, I call it an opportunity cost. With the 6 songs that all sound the same, stick in a sad but true kind of ballady.
Yeah, that's what we really need.
Or Fuel, something a little more the alternative metal. I wouldn't even call that metal, and that's fine. But yeah,
but that's a great
thing. That's
a great point. Post Load Metallica gives us some fun songs, right? And none of these cars makes me want to drive my car fast, except maybe off a cliff to perish in flames, right? But I made an amazing discovery. Of the 3 most recent Metallica albums, Death Magnetic, Hardwired, and this album, which has the longest average song, like if you average all the songs, and which has the shortest average song?
I would guess Death Magnetic has the longest average song.
Uh-huh.
I might even go the last 3. Yeah, Death Magnetic. And it probably is Hardwired with the shortest, but you're going to tell me it's this one.
How is it this one?
It's this one.
Okay. I believe you. It was weird.
Amazingly, incredibly, they are editing. I mean, there's data in front of me. The average, I had to make metric time because of stupid Excel, but Death Magnetic 7.4 minutes. Hardwired 6.4. This album 6.2. They're getting there.
How about that?
The next album is going to be amazing.
That's Lux Eterna bringing down the average.
In 6 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I debated bringing this up in presentation, but I decided not to, because I don't know if it technically counts, but I do like that they have put out videos of some kind for every single track. Yes. The way they did on the last album. The last album had full-fledged music videos for every single thing. This one has music videos for more than half of the album, I think. And then lyric videos for every song. And then in May, I think, they're releasing official ASL videos
Wow.
of
that's cool.
every song. And I think that's them
That's
using their power and influence and money to appeal to even more people. That often get overlooked.
They don't cheap out. They may, they're rich, da-da-da-da-da. They put out way more videos than they need to. They're very generous in the artwork and media. They spare no expense. You may or may not like the product, but they couldn't try more and spend more to get there than they do typically.
Yeah, and I'd say that probably the only other band that might come close to doing something like that would be Rammstein.
Yeah.
Because they just dump money into their product. Like they don't need to hire all those that director all the time, but they do. Because it gets them the product they want.
You make money to spend it.
Anyway, so there you go. If you're strapped for time, just listen to the last third of the album.
Or this review, honestly.
Or this review. Well, I have a feeling we'll be back to 20 minutes per review in no time.
Yeah.
But I had a lot to say about this one. So
I mean, I hope everyone has been keeping notes and knows how this ranks.
Yeah, we will not be publishing the results.
Nope.
I think we might at the end of the year, but probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Well, you know what? We'll see.
All right. Well, until next time, Metal Nation, don't sleepwalk your life away, and subscribe and do all that stuff.
Cast them down.
Oop, we got a call coming in. Hello?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
He liked it. He liked it twice.
he liked it.